Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate to the library page, and we're going to load the last service we have set up for the 9 o'clock, which each, each user has their own folder, and within their folders they have all the service, the show files that they use for each of the services that they do front of house for. And so within my folder I have my 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock service files that I'm just going to select the last one, which was December 26th, the 9 o'clock service. And we're by default everything is selected as far as what you want to load from the stored show file. I just, as a safety precaution, always just tap the all just to make sure everything's selected, and then hit load and confirm. And so this is just going to help us to be able to have a good starting point instead of starting completely from scratch. And so once I have the previous Sunday's service loaded, I'm going to go right back into the library, and I'm going to go ahead and do a save all, and I'm going to title this, create a new show file with the way we name our show files is by date and then either 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. So in this case, we're setting up for the January 2nd, 2022 service, 9 a.m. service. And so just to be able to sort everything in a way to where you can kind of see what your oldest and what your newest files are by sorting by name. We just format the year as format the data as year, month, and then day. And then again, we're setting up for the 9 o'clock service, so we'll just type in 9 a.m. and then hit save. So now we have our new file created. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to take a look at what all we have set up for this coming week as far as our instrumentation and our vocal list. And so the approach we're currently using is kind of divided, kind of has two main elements or aspects to it that we try to keep in mind, or we have as goals, and that's both efficiency from a time aspect as far as setting up the console and doing it in the quickest amount of time possible, and then also from an economical standpoint, which really plays into when you're actually mixing during the service. Me personally, I don't like to do a lot of page hopping, and so just having everything right in front of you to where you can focus most of your time and effort on mixing rather than trying to find stuff on the board is kind of what the end goal is. And some of the things I'm going to be walking through are regardless of who the user is, and then there's going to be some things that are more user preference. And so just as each user becomes more familiar and involved with the console and setting up for the services, they can kind of do some of the things that I'm about to show to kind of fit their own taste. And so me personally, I'm a big proponent of using the user layers on each section. I try to keep everything else the same as it's numbered, so that way if you got to go find a specific input or a bus or whatever, you can go find that without having to try to search around and stuff like that. So really the only things I try to only change is just the user layers. And so, and also while I'm building the service, I build the user layer as I load presets or setup inputs. And so that leads us into the next section of, really it's a two-part process. The first step being setting up all your inputs in input channels, and then the second part of the process is setting up all your sends, whether it be your mix buses or your USB outputs for multi-tracking or whatever else that is needed for that particular given week. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clear out my user layers just so I can kind of keep track of what I have loaded or what I have created for this specific Sunday's service. And I'm going to do the same thing on the middle section. And this kind of just gives me kind of a clean slate to prepare for this week. And so looking at our stage diagram, let's see, we have the drum kit. So the drum channels, unless if you have different drummers, in which the ones we have right now are fairly consistent, and so I don't load specific drum channels for each of our drummers because I can kind of make minor adjustments after I load everything from the previous Sunday. So so I'm going to my left, and when I talk about sections, I'm referring to this section as the left section, the center section, and then the right section. And so so right now we're on our left section, and the left section I tend to use to set up, really to display my my instruments and my instrument channels, and then some of my vocalists, depending on how many vocalists we have, and then the center section, which is primarily for your mix buses and DCAs, matrix outputs, and everything. I like to use the user layer to extend my input channels. So again, having that economical mindset to where you have everything right in front of you. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my drum inputs and load those onto user 1, and then let's take a look and see what else we have. And again, how you want to line things up is dependent upon the user, but I normally have my drum channels first, and then let's see, our bass guitarist, which a cheat way of looking to see who played last week and who's playing this week is you can go look at your mixes and look at the names of all your vocalists and instrumentalists. And so here I can I can tell who played bass last week and who's playing bass this week. And since it's not the same person, my next step I would do is I would go to my bass guitar channel. Let's see, my bass guitar channel, and since this was not the person, since it's the person that played last week is not going to be the person that played this week, I'm going to save this in my preset bank. And again, to not have to recreate the wheel every single Sunday, we like to use presets, and basically our 9 o'clock, our service show files and all our individual input channels are a culmination or a cumulative approach of everything we've done to that channel, and we just basically save over what's already in the console every single week. So I'm going to go into my channel folder, and I'm going to go into my instruments, my guitars and basses, and I'm going to save the preset for the individual who played bass guitar last week. And I'm just going to save all, make sure everything's selected, save, make sure I'm saving the bass guitar, save, confirm. And basically I'm going to do that for anyone who I need to change out and switch in. So I saved my last week's bass player, and then I'm going to go ahead and right after that I'm going to load my my bass player for this week. So make sure everything's selected, and then I'm going to hit load. And so now that I've got my bass player for this week loaded in, I'm going to go back to my user layer, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that bass guitar in. And so you can kind of see how I'm using the user layer to basically keep track of what I have loaded in or what I have created specifically for this week. And so referring back to our stage diagram, let's see, we have a piano, a guitar player, and then we have an electric rhythm player, and then we have an acoustic guitar player. So I'm going to go ahead and load in my electric rhythm player, and the same individual that played electric rhythm last week is playing this week, so I don't need to save and load in a new preset. So all I'm going to do is just drag my my rhythm guitar from that we used from last week, and we're going to use it again this week. And then we're just going to repeat the same thing until we got everyone filled up. So the next thing is the piano. Again, or excuse me, let's go ahead and load in the acoustic guitar, which looking at my set from last week, it looks like we had the same individual that played acoustic last week, so he's doing it again this week. So we're just going to drag our acoustic guitar, and then we're just going to drop that right into our user 1 layer. And then the next would be the piano. So the piano doesn't really change by user. It's a fixed instrument. It's not somebody that brings their own instrument from home, and so since it's the church's piano, we just leave that loaded in here as is, and we're just going to drag that in there because that doesn't really change from week to week. And then so let's take one more quick look, make sure we have all our instrumentalists. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instrumentalists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So okay, I got all my instrument section loaded up. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the vocalist. And so that's really the thing that's going to change from week to week, because we have different vocalists that change out every week, and or they may have been on last week and are going to be on again this week, but they may be on a different microphone. And so we have to go in, let's pull up our microphones, our wireless handhelds, which are 1 through 7. Down here below the image of the stage, we have a little key that tells us who's going to be on which microphone, and also on which wireless in-ear monitor pack that they're going to be on. So since we're working only on microphones right now, we're going to go ahead and set up the microphone side of it. So on number 7, we're going to load that vocalist in, and since we're swapping out the one that was on 7 last week, we're going to go ahead and go in and find them. And again, this is how I set my folders up, by instruments and then by vocals, and then I have my praise team members, and we're going to select the individual that was on that microphone last week, and we're going to go ahead and save their preset. And then we're going to load who's on number 7 for this week. So let's see. All right, so we're going to load our next vocalist. And then on this, since our wireless handheld numbers stay specific to these channels, when I load this preset, the only change I'm going to do over here is I'm going to unlink and take out the source settings and the link from the input channel to the source, because what that's going to do is that's going to, whichever microphone this individual was on last week, like let's say if hypothetically if this person was on number 6 last week and they're going to be on number 7, this channel won't be overwritten with microphone number 6, and so you'll have 2 channels with microphone number 6 linked. So we're just going to deselect just those pieces of it, and then we're going to hit load, confirm. And then we're just going to check here that that person is on number 7, and we're going to go back to our user layer. Actually, we're going to move over to the center layer, and we're going to go to our user 1 on the center bank, and we're going to load that vocalist in. Let's see. All right. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that for the other, let's see, 1, 2, or the other 2. And so we're going to go back to our microphone. So number 6 is, all right, so let's go back to our library. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, this individual happened to be on last week, and again, they switched microphone numbers, and so I'm not going to save and reload. When I clear out number 6, I'm just going to load whoever's going to be on number 6. So let's go ahead and it looks like this person was also on last week, but they just changed microphone numbers, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and load them to the new microphone number, and just make sure your source settings and your channel source are unselected, and we're going to load that. All right. And then you can see how the name changed, because we also edit the channel names to match whatever microphone they're on. So this week, this vocalist is on number 6, and so we're just going to go ahead and edit the name. And so number 6, and then we're going to go ahead and add that to our user layer, since that one's all set up now. And then our last vocalist is, let's see, okay. All right, so let's go ahead, and this last vocalist is going to be on number 5. So let's select number 5, and then we're going to go ahead and go back to our library, And again, this person was also on last week, so we're just going to load them into the new, for the new microphone number on there that they're on this week. And so let's see, we're going to select that. Just again, make sure all the source settings and channel link is deselected. And then we're going to hit load, confirm. And then we're going to make sure the number and the name matches the microphone they're on, which they're on 5. So we're going to delete that. All right, so, okay, so 5 and 5. So then we're going to go ahead and add that to our user layer, and then that's it for the microphones. There's some other microphones that were used last. Let's see, number 4 was used last week, but it's not going to be used this week. So what I'm just going to do, just as a cheat or a shortcut, is I'm just going to title this the generic name of the microphone, which means nobody's going to be on these microphones this week. So when people are dialing in their mixes, they can look at it and know that we're not actually having somebody on, let's see, microphones 1 through 4. And so now, since we have, I messed something up here. Okay, oh, I know what I need to do. Okay, all right, so I need to clear, okay, excuse me, I need to clear one of these out. And then I need to put my number 7 microphone on there. And what I like to do with my microphones is I like to arrange them based off of, from my view, from the left to the right. So let's see, we have 1, and then I'll just move that over. And actually, I gotta create room for our the worship leader. And then since he was on last week, we're just gonna drag and drop the worship leader vocal into our user layer. So now if I go back to both my user banks, I should have all my instrumentation, which we've already checked, and now I have my, let's see, and then also you probably can't tell on video from the printout, but there's little microphone symbols that have who all is going to be on a microphone, and then also if they're also playing an instrument, it will also specify under their name. So anybody with an instrument and with the microphone symbols on a microphone and an instrument. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 vocalists, which I have my 4 vocalists, and we've already checked all our instrumentation. So that's the first main step of the process, is just setting up all our channel inputs. And then let's say if hypothetically, if we had an instrument that wasn't on last week, you know, that you don't have an input channel set up for, you can easily go into your channel banks, find the next available channel number, and label that channel. And then also the only other thing you would need to do before rehearsal is assign an input on the stage, which, you know, you can go into any of your stage boxes depending on where they're going to be on the platform, and you can assign them to an input number on a stage box on the platform. And then once you got that set up, then you can load that into one of your user layers and be ready to go with that. So the next big step of the process is to set up all your output routing. The first thing I set up is our mix buses. All our mix buses, at least the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6 mix buses are for our in-ear monitors on stage. Each instrumentalist or vocalist will either have a wireless in-ear monitor pack, or will be on a P16, which is their own little personal mixers, and that's usually mostly only for the drummer and the pianist. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at my key on my stage diagram, and I'm going to look to see which pack has been assigned to which instrumentalist or vocalist. And then I'm just going to go down the list, and I'm just going to rename those mixes to whoever's on them for this week. So so our first instrumentalist is going to be on a hardline pack, which as of right now is actually on mix bus 2. They're actually, mix bus 2 feeds our wireless in-ear pack number 3, and it's also linked to output number 1 on box C for and that's usually our bass guitar player, which will either use a wireless pack or a hardline pack depending on who's going to be up there. And so in this case we have our bass player, and then I'm not going to put the number since he's going to be on a hard pack. And then on 5 and 6 is going to be one of our vocalists. Okay, and then on 7 and 8 is going to be another one of our vocalists. And then I had to move some stuff around last week. Let's see. So 4 is not being used either, so we're not going to worry about this. I'm just going to go ahead and take this out for sake of this example. We're just not going to worry about that. And then on 9 and 10, we have another one of our vocalists and our acoustic guitar player. So we're going to type that in there. And then we're just going to double check, make sure everybody's covered. So let's see. So we have Brent, or our bass guitar player. He's going to be hardlined into C1 on the platform, which is also specified on our key here. And then our vocalist on 5 and 6. Another one of our vocalists on 7 and 8. And then our third person on 9 and 10. So that's pretty much sets up all of our wireless in-ear packs and our in-ear monitors. But I think that pretty much covers it for just a general overview of just how the approach we're using to set up each week for the 9 o'clock service.